I dream of a world where there is no darkness or despair, where we can live without fear, where there is no death until after fulfillment. I dream of a world where our systems are not corrupt, where our world is equal, where we can breathe without worry. I dream of a world where children can be happy, where they don't die young or just survive, where they live and thrive. I dream of a world where adults are fair, where there's reason and stability for all, where the supposedly responsible are actually responsible. I dream of a world where there are no trucks driven into stores, where drinking is done responsibly, where there is safety. I dream of a world where the kids don't have to grow up too fast before having to mature, where the parents don't act only for control. I dream of a world where there is care, but not only for the environment, but the people. Where the people don't shoot just because they're angry, where a family can exist without harm within itself. I dream of a world with real care and action, where prosperity is not a requirement for care, where color is not a requirement for care. I dream of a world without society and just people who exist.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Writing Our Future, this special edition of Community Word Project's virtual series, The Art Inside. As Michelle said, I'm Shannon-Nelson Tai. I'm a member of Community Word Project's board, and I'm honored to be your host today. We have a fantastic lineup of student and teaching artists that are going to share their powerful voices with us. For those of you who are new to the organization, Community Word Project, or CWP, as we lovingly call it, is an arts education nonprofit here in New York. CWP facilitates culturally responsive, multidisciplinary art programs for students, teaching artists, and communities in order to develop and amplify their voices and creative skills. We envision a world where all artists and learners work together to recognize and celebrate the power of their creative voices and to manifest a more equitable future. There are two quick housekeeping items I want to highlight. First, artists know that when you pour out vulnerably, that response that you get back is so meaningful. So you can't unmute yourselves to respond, but we welcome you to live chat throughout this evening. Show your support to our students and our teaching artists. In order to participate in the chat, simply enter your full name in the chat box to the right, tick the box and hit join. Why don't you all go on and do that now and drop in the chat where you're dialing in from. I'm holding it down from Brooklyn. Secondly, throughout the evening, you can support CWP monetarily. You can scan the QR code on the screen with your phone. You can text the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, GIVE, to 347-293-7954. Feel free to do so now or at any moment in the evening when you feel inclined. And thank you so much to everyone who's already supported. Your generosity makes a world of difference. Now, moving on from those housekeeping items, you may be wondering a bit about the beautiful creative expressions that we enjoyed, and Michelle may have mentioned this when I was correcting my technical difficulties. But we, before the countdown, during those fantastic colorful murals, we heard an audio track with Beats by Franklin. Franklin is a 9th grader at the Bronx Envision Academy. We also heard, and will continue to hear throughout this evening, music of Natie. Natie is a recent graduate of CWP's Teaching Artist Training Program. She uses a looper, a violin, and vocals to build tracks live with flavors of soul and world music. And she is fresh off a world tour with Beyonce and Jay-Z, so we're in incredible company tonight. Through her music, Natie aims to share and to nurture authentic connections, more dialogue, and openness around some of the differences that currently divide us. We also heard from poet Charisma, a 9th grader at Bronx Envision Academy. About writing poetry, Charisma recently told us the following. Poetry is a way for me to put the things I'm thinking into words because I cannot say them physically. A way for me to construct my thoughts. Poetry is a beautiful art form for me. That's so well said, and I actually have a couple of things in common with Charisma. First, I have a triplet sister who's also named Charisma, and I think that's pretty cool. And secondly, as a poet, I also often feel that poetry helps me to collect and to process my own thoughts. And so I'm going to share a poem with you all. This is something I've rewritten and reworked numerous times over the years, but ultimately it's a recollection of my own artistic journey, a recognition of the communities I've been a part of, and an invitation to each of you. My hope is that this evening, sharing this experience together, celebrating these student and teaching artists, will be a step in the art of community. And so I give you my music. Ever noticed how our senses seem to store our memories? It's as though they compensate for our thoughts, forgetful tendencies. A smell can conjure up a 15-year-old image of Thanksgiving dinner, hug you into itself until you're convinced a decade just sprinted past in seconds. A touch can cause a reflex you did not expect because we act out the meaning of our rememberings, whether or not we're conscious of the lessons they left in the lanes of our minds. A sound is like a recollection spark. A song can take us back in time. I hear the opening phrase of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata and I'm 8 years old again. And I've just learned I have the comfortable capacity to coax crystal harmonies out of the carriage of a keyboard, nudge eighth notes along the stairways of staffs played on sheet music, shatter stereotypes with every classical masterpiece I collect into the cups of my fingertips. When I was 17, I discovered how easily wisdom explored itself inside my spoken rhythms. You could say words, they're my weapon of choice. Some say they don't want to fight me unless they've stolen my voice. When I was in college, I found one focal point of my community was a beautiful baby grand piano and the Black Student Center, where I was embraced by walls holding black and white portraits of black and white faces. Sometimes there was a gospel choir surrounding the couches on my left. At others, students were expounding intellectual arguments on my right. Certain evenings, the room was hungry, swollen with hungry hearts and an open mic. Or maybe I sat for a solo session with just an ancient piece of sheet music for company. At this time, ink-colored notes dance along charcoal lines of frosted pages, slide off the staff in a fluid melody, drip into the grooves of my memory. I am rocked into the waves of commemoration. I float in the images of musical representations. I see the hopscotching fingers of a jazz pianist sounding out the imaginings of her liberating talent. I lean my eyes on the architecture of Julian Abel's mind. He's that Black architect of Duke, not even allowed to attend the school he designed. And so I squint through the radiance of past hopes and aspirations, partially fulfilled by the survivors and martyrs of silent injustices, the overcomers of generational obstacles, these makers, these co-creators of modern day miracles. And I squint through the radiance of future hopes and aspirations, imagined and pursued by these youthful learners, these dismantlers of disparities, these pursuers of purpose, who spill their soul rhymes they speak, who dream up worlds and the truth they seek. Perhaps they walk with the legs of legacy. I think you join a legacy by choosing to. I'm only part of one chapter, a single measure of one movement of a historical sonata. What choice will you make of your measure? You see, I didn't just appear here. I did not come by chance. This life I live could not have always been lived, and the music I bring forth can only be arranged because of what others did, and so I'm grateful. I think you join a legacy by listening. A single note, even when sustained with a strong, clear tone, gets tired and moves neither mountains nor men, but a chord and a progression of chords persists into a melody, carves meaning into souls and resonates like purpose, engaging in change, unfinished and waiting, because passion is a hollow hopefulness, fragile, yet so powerfully full of possible. This symphony of humanity overtaking my memory invites us into a community, imperfect, but perfecting a vision of individual lives into collective strength. So tonight, will you soldier yourself strongly in this present? Let your mouth sound out old words of hard-fought tradition. Let your ears welcome new words of young poets' reflections. Let your mind resist temptation to live in society's popular generalizations, and instead celebrate the complexity common to my culture's identity, to our collection of identities. Perhaps we'll grant permission to write our future into a timeless birthing place, as each of our melodies mix into a harmony, surpassing our own intentions. I think you join a legacy by remembering. Tunes sink into our minds and resurface. Tonight, will you commit to hold on to this and continue in the majesty, reshaping necessity, essence, and hope of my musical memory? Thank you all so much for that chance to share a bit of my poetry. Before we welcome more creative voices to the virtual stage, we have the privilege of hearing from Kotler, the founder and executive director of Community Word Project. Hi, Michelle. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. It's amazing to be with everyone here tonight. And thank you, everybody, for helping us amplify our young people's voices and visions. And thank you, Shannon, for that beautiful poem.
Thank you so much. For everyone here tonight, can you take us back to the beginning of the organization and then bring us forward to where we are today?
So I joke that I started CWP when I was 6 years old. That was the year that I started New York City Public School in 1974. It was also the year that arts education was ripped out of the city system because of financial dire straits. And I learned differently, and I was not taught differently. I hated school until I met Mr. Kluger, my sixth grade teacher, who was also a musician. And he said, language is music, and every syllable is a beat. And that stayed with me. Shannon, your poem is proof of that, as is the student work that we're going to hear tonight. And his classroom became a place where I wanted to be versus where I had to be. And he changed my life forever, and Community Word is how I'm playing that forward. CWP officially became an organization 22 years ago. We grew from one Bronx classroom into over 100 classrooms and libraries, and each year we reach nearly 3,000 young people, and we keep growing. Now we're partnering with Tandon NYU School of Engineering and Steinhardt School of Education, where we are researching and amplifying how we amplify students' voices through technology. Think of all the tech professions that our students are exposed to. And the work keeps getting stronger because we keep learning. Throughout the years, what has stayed the same is our core model. We pair a writer with a musician, a dancer, a theater artist, or a visual artist. And that artist team works alongside classroom teachers, integrating creative and critical thinking skills and social emotional learning into the curriculum. We train artists to reach every kind of learner, just as I needed as a kid, but I was alone, and our students don't need to be alone. We started with training 5 artists, and now we train 50 to 100 artists each year from every walk of life. And this is how we scale impact, because the artists we train not only work with our students, but work with thousands of young people across the city and country. This community is 900 trained artists strong.
It's an incredible story of growth and impact. The last couple of years have been pretty tough. There's been uncertainty and loss. It's required a lot of perseverance. How has CWP come out as a stronger organization in 2022?
This has been a really tough time for all of us, right? Especially our public school students and teachers. This pandemic has exposed and magnified disparities off the chart. Instead of only thinking about how hard it is, we ask, what can we do about it? When the pandemic first began, we looked at what was working in the classroom, the collective voicing, the constructive risk-taking, the collaboration, the revisioning, and the amplifying. And we went back to our roots to embrace these actions as an organization. Our students, classroom teachers, and staff revamped our mission, value, and vision. We became more agile. When we returned to the classroom this past September, our TAs focused as much on the social emotional as the literacy, which our classroom teachers deeply appreciated. Later this evening, you'll hear from Tyrike Saunders, a phenomenal classroom teacher, about how CWP impacted his classroom. We reconfigured our training to include preparing teaching artists to learn a wider skill set so they have more opportunities to get work and to support themselves. And yes, it's been challenging, and the power of our community kept us going. And that's how we do it. We keep going.
Well, I definitely admire CWP's resilience. I'm grateful to be on the board and part of the journey. I'll share briefly one of my personal highlights of my board service was hosting a CWP event with my employer, BlackRock's Black Professionals Network, during Black History Month earlier this year. An incredibly talented CWP teaching artist, Joshua Sy'rai, led us in a couple of creative writing exercises, and ultimately we created collective community poems. And it was a wonderful and definitely not typical lunchtime experience for asset management. I think some of my colleagues may have even joined us today. And some of you who are listening may hear that story, and maybe it sparks of an idea of how you can connect creatively with your own colleagues, regardless of the industry that you're in. Reach out to Michelle to make it happen. Michelle, I know you enjoyed that workshop with us, and one of the things you always share with me that always resonates is the power of community.
Yes to community, because change does not happen alone, and we're all in it together. And thank goodness we are all in it together. Just like we ask our students to keep going, we continue to ask our community to keep going. Thank you for being with us and amplifying our young people's voices and visions. And for those who already supported, thank you again. And for those of you who are interested in keeping this work going, we have raised $90,000 towards our 100K goal, and we call these poetry snaps. And we want everyone to be a part of this. And we have received support in the amount of $5 to $12,000. All amounts count. Once again, you can support our programs by scanning the QR code on your screen with your phone, or texting GIVE to the number that Brandy will be putting in the chat, and that number is 347-293-7954. And once again, thank you everyone for being a part of this special evening and for being part of our community. We are grateful.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for your leadership, your impact, and your passion. Now we'll return to welcoming creative expressions to the virtual stage. Next up are classmates of Charisma, the young poet who kicked us off this evening. These student artists are also in the 9th grade at Bronx Envision Academy. Remember, if you hear them spit a line that moves you, don't keep it to yourself. Drop it in the chat. Please join me in welcoming Dominic, Zadia, Escarlin, and Miriam.
I am a small patch of green grass on a snowy day. I am the sunlight that pierces a dark, empty room. I am a lonely tree in an empty forest.
I am anger and disappointment. I am the heat of a morning shower. I am the cold snow floating ever so lightly outside your window.
I am the bottom of the ocean, calm and deep. I live in the country that never sleeps. I am the feeling of peace in the middle of your struggle.
I am as complete as a pack of wolves. I am as proud as a bird flying for the first time.
I am the calm vibe that the ocean gives. Sometimes I have more energy than the sun.
I am as high as a giraffe's neck.
I am the smell of the crisp morning autumn breeze as it fills your nose.
I am a drug. If used correctly, I can heal.
Wow, beautiful imagery. I loved the similes. I really enjoyed the use of senses and those words. Dominic said, I am a drug. If used correctly, I can heal. Show some love in the chat for Dominic, Zadia, Escarlin, and Miriam. Next, we'll be welcoming up Luopu. Luopu is a graduate of our Teaching Artist Training Program. She's a Liberian American, loves to travel, and is a Master of Fine Arts candidate at the New School with a concentration in poetry. Recently, she spoke to us about her work, and she said, I am a storyteller. I love writing because it allows me to create space for myself in a world that doesn't always create space for me. I see my art as a form of activism and as a way for me to practice radical self-love and self-care. Powerful words already. I present Luopu.
My folks have gaps between their teeth and kinky hair and names that are too hard to forget. My folks know different dialects, but we speak the same language. Some are silent by choice. Some loudly chew on words. My folks sip on each other's laughter. We light up dark rooms. Basements are abandoned, no longer in the shadows, free to move beyond the light. We hold each other's light in the depths of our souls, free to move beyond.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us that chance to sip your thoughts. We hold your light, Luopu. Next, I'm going to introduce you to Bronx Envision Academy ELA Classroom Teacher, Tyrike Saunders, and CWP Teaching Artist, Libby Mislan.
Okay, thank you, Shannon, and welcome, Mr. Saunders.
Thank you, Libby. I'm glad to be with you to celebrate the voices of CWP.
Yeah, it's great to see you again. Yeah, and so cool just to see our students like phenomenal work in all of these clips that we're getting to see tonight. Their delivery has been incredible, and I know you are an ELA teacher at Bronx Envision Academy, which is where Nichelle and I were teaching in your classroom from, I believe it was October to January. And I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about some of the experiences that your students go through, like either in general or this year in particular, that make their way out through their poetry and through their art. Like, what are some of the challenges that they face?
Yes, so with my students, the biggest challenge is sort of their insecurities when it comes to their writing. Even though they're very, confident on the surface, when it came to their writing, just their capability as writers, a lot of times they would become very shy and they just had a difficult time at first just being vulnerable enough to create, some powerful poetry.
Yeah, definitely. I know we face that, especially with working on the self-portrait project this year in your classroom. And I wanted to also ask you in particular how it's been this year working through the global pandemic. I know Michelle has mentioned that this has just been like an unprecedented time to be a teacher. And Nichelle and I were in your classroom like during the Omicron surge and just like through, really stressful times. So I just wanted to ask you about how that experience has been for you and also for your students.
Yes, it was a lot. It was very overwhelming. My students who are ninth graders, this is the first time they've all been in school. They really didn't have a middle school. So this is the first time in which they had the full experience from about 2 years ago. So it was very nerve-wracking at first for a lot of students, but we are beginning to see, some semblance of normalcy. And I think community word helped out a lot with it because students were allowed to show their vulnerabilities and allowed to just, enhance their social skills with their writing. So CWP has definitely been beneficial for that.
Amazing. Yeah, that actually brings me to our award. So Tyrike, on behalf of Community Word Project, we would like to present you with our Educator of the Year award. Oh, it's gorgeous. This is the first time I'm seeing it. It's beautiful. So
Yeah.
I wanted to share like a little bit about why Nichelle and I nominated you for this award. So first of all, we just really, really appreciate how supportive you were of us coming into the classroom. Like as a teaching artist in, New York City public schools, it's like we get paired with so many different classroom teachers, and having a supportive classroom teacher is like just such an incredible gift for us. Like all the little ways that you helped us, not only logistically, but also to like hold the students accountable to our work and to like make us feel welcome as guests in your classroom. That's the first thing that I wanted to thank you for. But also just like in teaching, oftentimes it's like the little things that end up being the big things. And we just noticed so many little things about the way that you operate in the classroom that are really incredible. Like the way that you brought some of like our creative curriculum into your ELA work, and sometimes you would like mention to us that you were, you know, using some exercise that we had done with sensory details, like for the ELA work that the students were doing. So just like that kind of like cross-pollination of curriculum was really amazing for us. The way that you would like type up and print out like outstanding student poems, and just like, you know, the student, like really let the students know that you recognized and that you were proud of their voice. And that was like so obvious. And the way that you would take their work that was handwritten and type it and kind of like put it up on the wall for everybody to see. And also the way that when students were hesitant to read their work out loud, they would always like choose you as the person to read it instead. And you would always read their work like so expressively, and, you know, show them through your reading of their work that the work is powerful. And like they always wanted it to be you, because obviously I think they really admire you. And yeah, lastly, I think just the way that you take the time to build personal connections with students. Like I always notice that you would really bond with students over like different shared interests. And I think that that's something that as educators, like it's so important that we do that our students really see us as humans above all else. And I think you did such an incredible job with all of that. Obviously, your students adore you and respect you. So on behalf of Community Word Project, thank you so much. This has been such a hard year for educators, and we just really wanted to like celebrate and honor the work that you do every single day. I know it's not easy, but you are phenomenal. So thank you so much, Tyrike.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you again. This is even when you guys left us, which we were all sad about, we were definitely able to, or I was definitely able to implement a lot of the things you introduced. I've been teaching 8 years, and this year was the first time I actually taught a poetry book, or had a poetry like a full unit. And you know, and that's definitely kudos to you guys, because you definitely like inspired me and even gave me the motivation and the confidence to do that. So the thanks are back to you.
Oh, I love that. Makes me really happy to hear. So would you like to introduce the next two students from Bronx Envision Academy?
Yes, I would like to introduce you to my two students. You will hear the voices of Naima and Astrid. Enjoy.
Thank you again, Mr. Saunders.
Thank you.
I dream a world where there is no gun violence, where there is more government income, where there is no sex trafficking. I dream a world where there is no homelessness, where there is more help to addicts, where there is no racism or colorism. I dream a world where there is more emotional support when it comes to mental health, where there is no death or diseases, where there is more caring for children. I dream a world where there is help to all colors and races.
I dream a world where everyone has equality. I dream a world where there are less stalkers, where everyone gets treated the same, where there is no discrimination of race, sexual orientation, or mental illness. I dream a world of less bullying overall, where there is less abuse, where there is more people who understand that English is not the only language. I dream a world where there is less people judging off your looks, where people aren't stressed over everything, where students don't have to worry about school shootings.
Thank you for sharing your dreams of the world with us, Naima and Astrid. I think you've given voice to how a lot of us hope for the future. Show some love in the chat for Naima and Astrid, and welcome two students from the Young Women's Leadership School, also known as 12, in Queens, Olivia and Allison, who are both currently in CWP's 2.0 program. Olivia is in the 10th grade, and her favorite subject is social studies because she likes history. She recognizes that it repeats itself, and it's important to learn from the past. She's been a representative of the school's student government since the 6th grade. She wants to go into commercial real estate one day and have her own firm. Following Olivia will be Allison, also in the 10th grade. She writes about entertainment and culture for the school's newspaper, the Twills Times. She plans to enter the medical field and as either a pharmacist or a dermatologist. So we welcome to the virtual stage Olivia and Allison.
Just breathe, that's what they say. Just breathe and your troubles will disappear. Just breathe, but my hands are getting sweaty. Just breathe, but the air is getting heavy and can't fill my lungs. Just breathe, but my vision is getting blurry. Just breathe, but my heart is in a hurry as if it's late to work. Just breathe, but I feel like I'm being consumed. Just breathe, but I feel like I am locked in a room with no escape. Just breathe in. Just breathe out. Just breathe and open your eyes. Just breathe and look at the skies. Just breathe, you're calming down. Just breathe, listen to the sounds. Just breathe the fresh air. Just breathe, I know it's not fair, but you're almost done. Just breathe. You won.
The storm is near. I fear I have taken on too much. I feel the brisk serene breeze, cold to the touch. Still I stand, gazing at the clouds, roaring so threateningly. Still I smell the fresh air and the gentleness of the clouds. Still I feel the endless sunset beckoning on me. Still I look past the storm and notice my world transform. I strive, day after day, struggle or no struggle, to find my way. It is a feeling like no other. Still I am.
I'm still breathing, Olivia, still winning. I feel like I could listen to both of those reminders on a daily basis, reminders to breathe and reminders to look past the storm and see our daily roads transform. I also love how his music has hugged each poet's words so tightly throughout this evening. Now, we're all going to transform from spectators to artists. We invite our audience to write haikus with CWP teaching artists Elizabeth Leonard and Twills student Sy'rai.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, Sy'rai. It's nice to be here. We're going to be leading you all through a creative writing, a haiku writing exercise, which we're really excited about. And because CWP values community and connection, we do a lot of community writing in our residencies and our programs. And particularly during these difficult times, like we've been hearing about, coming together and finding ways to be creative together can be even more powerful. So we want to invite you all today, even though you're not with us physically, to write with us, to share your words. And this is a time often where we think more about holding one another, supporting one another, making space for self-care, for radical love, for joy. And so we'll be focusing on that kind of support and self-love and joy. And we want us to have a chance to reflect the voices here tonight, which can be a reflection of the wide tapestry that is our community for CWP. So I will pass it to you, Sy'rai, and if we could see that first slide, please.
A small poem made of 3 lines, broken down by syllables. The first 5 syllables, the second is 7, and the third is 5 again. To the next slide. Okay. A haiku also tends to juxtapose 2 images to create something new and surprising, just like the one shown to your right. Now, let's write. you write your next 2 lines about how we hold and lift and support each other. Then share your haiku in the chat. Write your 3 lines in 3 minutes.
You can see the example that I wrote on the screen. We hold each other up on life's rocky sea, in joy, in art, and hope. And we have 3 minutes, but you can write your haiku, drop it in the chat as soon as you're ready. Creative work is not always easy to do, but it's life itself. Thank you, Francine Masala. So beginning with, we hold each other,
daring to radically love. We rise unafraid.
Master Dale, another one of our teaching artists and a co-director for the training program TAP. We hold each other until the storm passes. Where joy finds its rock. Sorry, you take the next one, Sy'rai.
All right, so I'll read one from Michelle. She says, we hold each other together in love and dreams. It washes me.
Beautiful. From Jessica Hogue, we hold each other in space we have created when it does not exist. These are gorgeous.
There's one from Deepak. Sorry if I said your name wrong. We hold each other during difficulties, yet always in strength. I like that one.
Beautiful. From Gail, we hold each other tight like chocolate in both hands and love on the crazy roller coaster ride. Yes, I love the chocolate and love.
Then there's one from Brenda. We hold each other like a ring holds a finger, tight circles of love.
Beautiful. From Edward, a line in the darkness of death. Beautiful. From Moira, we hold each other, a lantern in the night, 2 hands held high.
We hold each other up with love, compassion, and care for the human race.
Beautiful. Daniel Voices says, in reality, we hold ourselves, for you cannot love another fully until you fully love yourself.
That's true. One from Lei. We hold each other, 2 plants nested in the soil, sun watering us.
From Christopher Lasala, we hold each other and we will never let go till the end. Herrick's High School students. Thank you. Maybe a couple more.
We hold each other like birds in flight, high above, that waves us on earth.
Beautiful. Anu Anam, we hold each other by the fire in the night, in the water, like in the lake. Beautiful. So much beautiful imagery.
Lindsay says, we hold each other with the fierce love. We will pray.
From Shannon, we hold each other loosely like bubbles in the sky. We rise and we rise. I love that. And also part of our 2.0 program, we read Still I Rise.
Yeah. Hold her across the forever miles and meet in the space there.
We hold each other with broken bones, but still hold true, stronger than the tide. Love that. I'm an anonymous student. These are wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing.
Bold, loving embraces, hugs do work. Try them.
And one more. We hold each other tightly with our hurting hearts, healing one soul. Beautiful. Thank you so much, everybody. These are gorgeous.
From Robin.
Yep.
Sorry. We hold each other until our warmth ignites love, every one of us. Sorry.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing. And thank you for Sy'rai, for leading this with me. It was lovely. We'll be hearing from Sy'rai actually in a moment. She'll be sharing her own poem. And she's also a TWIL student, like Olivia and Allison, and also a member of our 2.0 project. And I'm a teaching artist for CWP. I have been for many years, and I'm a teaching artist for the 2.0 project and manage that program. And that one is slightly different than our regular in-school programs. Michelle mentioned our partnerships with NYU and Georgia Tech. And so we get to work with educators and researchers from NYU and Georgia Tech on this program, which is a college and career exposure program, and also provides the opportunity for students from different high schools throughout the city to create interdisciplinary arts projects. Introduce Liz Marion from the Bronx Envision Academy. So I'll turn it back to you, Shannon. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for sharing.
Still, I climb on, though my wings are clipped and my hope is gone. And the mountain seems too big to climb, and I'm scared that without my wings I cannot fly. Still, I climb on, though my feet are sore, because I know the journey is worth it, and because I cannot just sit, because life goes on whether or not I permit. Still, I climb on. I can feel my feathers rejuvenate. They'll regrow like there's a due date. So I'll force myself through the dirt and grime, because to simply wait around without trying would be a waste of time. Still, I climb on, though the coal underneath my feet are hot, and the weight of the world is stronger than not. I fear the future, but I know my body and my mind will not rot. And still, I climb. The view at the top is beautiful. The heat from the sun sends shivers down my spine, and I can hear cheering from the bottom. I'll fly like the leaves in autumn.
Who are you? Such an easy question that can be answered in so many ways. A question that even a toddler can answer easily, but it's not that easy for me. The inner identity crisis that occurs before I even perk my lips to answer. How can I say every single thing that forms my identity in less than 10 words? What parts of my identity do I talk about? I ask myself so many questions before even reaching an answer. The confusion is like a never-ending maze that is impossible to beat. With every turn, there's a dead end. Should I even bring up parts of my identity that are conflicting? The fear of not wanting to seem odd or out of place. The crippling fear of rejection and not feeling accepted. When being so different from others, it's hard to find people who relate to you. It's either too much of this or too much of that. But where's the in-between? Is it too hard for me to reach? Is it too hard for people to see? How can I accept myself? My brain hurts from the constant thoughts. Am I overthinking? Or am I just overreacting? It can't be that hard, right? Just answer the question. Who am I? I've come to the conclusion that I'm different. I have multiple identities that makes me me. There's no concrete answer that I can give to answer this question. I am a 17-year-old black girl whose family is from St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm too Americanized to fit into my Caribbean roots, and I'm too different to fit into American standards. That's who I am.
Thank you, Liz and Sy'rai, for sharing those reflections with us. And thank each and every one of you for joining tonight. Just like Michelle said, this work never happens alone. I want to extend a special thank you to our incredible students, to CWP staff, teaching artists, CWP's board and associate board, and most of all, thank you to our generous supporters. And we're so grateful to all enjoy this amazing community together. We do hope that you've been inspired tonight and help us to continue to inspire our students and our teaching artists with your generous support. Don't forget that you can scan the QR code with your phone or text GIVE to 347-293-7954. Thank you all. Have a safe and wonderful night.
Olivia, take one. Ready?
Which camera do I look at?
This one.
Okay.
I'm looking here.
You look here. Here, go for it.
Allison, take one. The storm is near. Oh, where am I looking?
Whoa.
One small patch of green grass.
1 second. Wow. Way too fast.
Skip like 2 lines of my poem.
In that version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charisma, take one.
Do I say hi?
Say hi.
Okay.
I'm sorry. No, I'm laughing way too much.
I am as high as a giraffe's neck.